and welcome to Fat Squirrel Speaks. Today is Monday, February 13th, and this is I'm Amy Beth, also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry and the Fat SQRRL on Instagram. I forgot that I had stopped numbering episodes because I could never remember the number, but like vocal muscle memory took over there for a second, so welcome. Oh my goodness, y'all, I was just doing my planning for the next few weeks, and I got to March. March is in a hot second. What? February is wild, man. Wild. So anyway, this is a podcast where I tell you things you already know. Bam. Try not to. But anyway, this week's episode will contain administrative things in the form of patron gifts, patron prizes. So patron prizes for the first quarter. If you support the podcast via Patreon, I appreciate your face, and so does everybody else. And so I will have some prizes for you. I'll talk about that in a second. I have a shop update February 15th. Just to kind of give you a meta overview, the February 15th the February 15th update will have critters. So it'll have cats and bunnies and moths and birds dressed as Tudor ball people. And then I will have a March 1st update, which will have primarily geometric / abstract bags. Oh my goodness, pardon me. So dainty, like a Tudor ball bird. Tudor ball bird ball gown. Oh, whatever. So that March 1st will have, more abstract and geometric bags. Both updates will happen at fatsquirrelfibers.com. They will both happen at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you so much for purchasing my little orphan one-of-a-kind bags. I was so tickled, but I do apologize. I was kind of behind on the update, just by 5 or 10 minutes, probably 10 minutes. And I apologize. It might happen this week. So if you're there at exactly 9 p.m. and it's stalled for just a minute, I apologize. What is happening is that somewhere in northern Indianapolis, I am in a printmaking studio during my screen printing class. And I realized that it's 9 o'clock because my class isn't until 9:30 and I need to update, but I definitely have a screen full of ink that will dry if I leave it long enough to do the update. And I will have inevitably just put the ink on the screen. So it's a thing. But I'm going to try my best this time. Last time was a bit of chaos. So it'll contain those things. It'll contain knitting. It will contain just a little bit of embroidery, and it will contain some stuff from my screen printing class. So we'll have all of those things. It's a cornucopia. Speaking of cornucopias, if you don't know this, I'm really great at segues. Effortless, seamless. Somebody should hire me. Except I could never actually do them if I was trying to. Anyway, if you are a patron of the podcast, you get prizes. But also, I did upload a few weeks ago, just like us having a cuppa and looking through the seed catalog. So I saved my Southern Exposure seed catalog, which is one of my favorites. And I was like, I'm just going to do a little, we'll just hang out and go through the seed catalog. And then I was like, these people do not want to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. But finally, I succumbed to the desire to share the seed catalog with patrons. So if you're a patron and you would like to check that out, you can totally do so. If you'd like to check out any extra videos I have, you can find more information on patreon.com. I'm the Fat Squirrel. Am I the Fat Squirrel there? Or am I Fat Squirrel Fibers? Who am I? You can find information in the drop-down under my links. That's probably the easiest thing. But it was actually quite fun, so thank you for entertaining me. All right, well, since we're doing that, let's just do this. Okay, so I was really trying to get you a printed a prize for my printmaking class, but there was this happening. So we have some options. If you're a patron of the podcast and you would like to get a prize, I will post these prizes on the Patreon page. So you can, what I've been doing is just posting a picture of the prize. And then if you're interested in winning that prize, just put anything in the comments. It can be an emoji. It can be a, yay, I want this. It can be a, you know, this is what I had for dinner. This is my favorite soup. This is like, you know, whatever. It could just be an orange heart for sumos because we all know what those mean, right? So that's how I'll do the prizes. That way I don't stress out so much. I'm thinking like, oh, people don't want this prize. I can just be like, oh, if you don't want it, then you just don't put your little namey doodle in there for the drawing. And then I'll do the drawing like, oh no, what do I do? I guess I can't remember. Did I do the drawing on here last time? Whatever. I'll post on the Patreon thread prize winner. Right? I don't know. You'll find out more information. So the prizes this time are going to be these skeins of yarn. There'll be 4 prizes. Okay, so we have some beautiful self-striping from Vesper Socks, from Literally Things. This is Vesper Sock in the Some Summertime colorway, right? We have Mustache Yarn in the Sport Sock self-striping Camp Knit Along. This is her Campfire colorway. We have this, which is a not traditional self-striping, but just a very long color repeat, which that's all the information I'll give you. It's from Earth Yarns, URTH, and this is their Unique, UNEEK. And this one and the Vesper are 100% superwash merino, so no nylon. And then this beautiful skein, which is not self-striping, from another crafty girl. This is her Oh Shiny Sock. So this is one of the Emmett's Otter Band? No, Emmett, the Otter colorways. Oh my gosh. Right? Yeah, okay, whatever. This is Gotta Take Chances. And actually, secretly, I bought this in this shiny base, but then realized I actually wanted it in another base, so you get the shiny one. And these are all yarns that these were not gifted. These were not promotions. These are all just, I bought them with dollars. Okay, and then, so then each one of those will have the option of one of these silly prizes along with it. Okay, so in my screen printing class, one of the things I did was a frog and toad. And so here it is on paper. Maybe I'll show you the paper one better first because it's more successful. So I did this guy, right? So he's screen printed, just a one color, but like, oh, how charming, right? So cute. And this is a line drawing I did inspired by another, by a frog and toad. You know, it's not a direct port, but you know. But I also so I tried to make you some bags with it, but I'm not as successful as screen printing on this fabric. I've never I've screen print on flat fabric, which is quite easy for me, but this printing them on these little pre-made tote bags was a bit more of a challenge than I anticipated. So with each skein of yarn, though, you will have the option to have a pretty moderately wonky screen printed bag. So most of them I've had to go in and sort of like add in a bit of a line because it didn't print all the way through. This is the most successful one. Wait, this one is pretty successful too, right? This one is pretty wonky. I'm like, it's vintage, right? Except for this, whatever. But you know, if you want it, then you want it. I would totally be okay with it being imperfect, but if you don't, then you just don't sign up for that one. And then this one's really wonky. He's like a super chonk. He's got some double inking going on. But anyway, so it's something I'm just working on. I'm experimenting, trying new things. And I do think he's pretty darn cute. So again, if you're a patron, you can find information about those prizes on our Patreon thread. Just put in your little name for each prize that you would be interested in winning. Does that make sense? So you might enter your name up to 4 different times, like once on each of the 4 threads. So while we're doing administrative stuff, let's talk about shop updates. I'm having one February 15th, which is just a few days. And it's going to have tutor ballroom ball gown birds, tutor ball gown birds. Oh my gosh. But aren't they charming? So I did this sweater in an Aran sweater bag, and it was a much larger scale print. But I found that the artist had offered a smaller scale, so you'll have them in both this, which is the large wedge size, which is perfect for accessories, and you will have this same scale print in the sweater size bag, which is great for, sweaters for lots of folks. For me, it works best for like a fingering weight sweater, or like a giant 5 skeins shawl. So there's that one. And then in large wedge, I have these beautiful sort of twally, but like just lovely bunnies. And this is a linen. It is interfaced because it's not a super heavyweight linen, but it is a linen natural and black. Isn't it cute? And then these kitties make me very happy. They feel very printmakerly, so they're making me extra happy right now. These super cute kitties are available in a sweater size, which is this size, and then the next size up, which is the Aran sweater. And they'll both have a black canvas bottom, just kind of help with muckiness because of the white fabric, but isn't it so cute? And so all of these are denim except for the bunnies, which are the linen, interfaced linen. Cotton. It's a linen cotton blend. I apologize. I don't think I said that. And then moths. Right. Because come on, you gotta have something for the cat to bat at other than the birds. Because the birds will probably cut the cat. I'm just saying. I don't know what they've got secreted in those ball gowns. But the cats probably want to not mess with those birds. I'm just saying. It seems a bit dangerous. So again, that'll be February 15th, 9 p.m. Eastern, fatsquirrelfibers.com. And then in Shenanigans, well, you already saw part of it. I am taking a screen printing class at my Indianapolis Art Center. And so I've been working a lot on, creating images to do screen printing with. Well, actually, that's a lot of what I've been... I am not an illustrator, so that's actually been quite time consuming. I'm using Procreate. I'm really liking it in terms of like the ability to play with like the composition of what you're doing and like layouts and stuff before you commit to like all of the time of creating the drawing and then being like, because again, like I don't have that proficiency in illustrating something. I'm quite slow and it's very laborious for me. And as you've seen, I have other things I also really enjoy doing. Oh my goodness, I'm wearing my No Pearl Break, which is by a pattern by Stephen West. And this is knit with souvenir yarn I bought from my trip to from the Tetons. So this is Farmer's Daughter. And then, I don't know, is it Bayou Basin? I don't know. It's a bison-based yarn. But now I'm getting very hot, so I apologize. Whew. I'm post-hot flash, like I'm post-menopause, but like the hot flashes do still occasionally happen. Especially when I get excited about things and we talk about them. And I'm drinking a warm drink. So, screen printing class. So yeah, I'm using Procreate. I'm really enjoying it. I love wood block printing. I love lino printing. I love that aesthetic of printing. It's something that just has always like just kind of made a vibration in my chest, and I just love it. And so screen printing is a totally different beast. But one thing I was hoping is I took a class with the same instructor last year about printing on fabric, and we did block printing on fabric, and we did a different kind of screen, like we did a few different screen printing styles or applications. That's not even right. Techniques. There we go. And so while I love the look of block printing, it's so exciting with my skill level, which is very, very low. It is definitely a challenge to be consistent in block printing on fabric. There are many people who can do it so beautifully. But with my skill level, that is like another kind of barrier, right? And so one of the things I wanted to experiment with was creating some sort of like block printing aesthetics, but using screen printing because I can be much more consistent with it. It was actually just so exciting. Last year we did I had them out because again, I was like trying to find things. And last year, I was like done all this block printing and I was just kind of discouraged about like, you have an idea of what you want to do and then like your skills don't live up to that. And so, I was kind of like, I wasn't like horrible, but I was a little bit discouraged. And then we did the screen printing thing and I was like electrified because it was so exciting to get something that was really consistent, that looked like I thought it would look. I guess that's really what was the most exciting. And then it was repeatable. So just, I don't know if you remember, I did this image last year or in that class and I made some bags for it with it. But like, so just, I guess that's just to prove to you that I can actually screen printing on fabric. It was just these bags were challenging. They were all wonky. Anyway, so I was like, why did I start talking about that? Oh, I guess because I was just talking about like, these are my shenanigans, is that I've been working in this class, working with images. And again, trying to think of something that would kind of have a block printed aesthetic, but be producible at my skill level. And screen printing kind of seemed like the way to do that. And since then I've been like, you know what, I'm happy that I took this class, but also I'm like going to let myself take a block printing class again in the future. Because not everything has to be for the business. You know what I mean? Like I can also just, it's hard to even like allow space to say that. But I can just like make up wonky art for myself, and enjoy my wonky art. It's kind of like, I don't know, I guess am I reaching that age where I've also been flirting with writing again? Like I had hubris enough when I was like 13 to write and to like think that I might be a writer. And then I had about 30 years of being like, that's a very dumb thing to think of yourself. Like of myself, not of anybody else's self. That's a very dumb thing to think of myself. And I think I've like maybe I've turned the corner again. And I don't think it's hubris. Like I don't think it's, I think everything is to a certain extent, but it's not the same feeling as it was when I was like 13, 14, 15, 16. I guess more like 15, 16, 17 was when I thought I could be a writer. So it's like maybe like turning the corner back though, like in terms of like, we talked about this a little bit and like my responsibilities have changed quite a bit. Like the human that I've been caring for quite some years is able to care more for themselves. Totally not entirely, obviously. But so like that has changed. I don't know that it has gone like that the amount of brain space required has changed. It's like deeper and smaller than it used to be. So like now there's different places that are available for occupation in my brain. And so like, I think part of it is that, and I think part of it is actually like the opposite of hubris, like the actual acceptance that we are all, okay, I'm going to say this, I don't believe it yet. I'm working on it. The actual thought that we are all valid and we might all have something valid to say. Okay, that we all have something valid to say, and that like it is not egotistical to think that because we all have something. Ooh, that actually kind of, I am actually just really not a crier, but that one kind of, Anyway, I'm working on that one, so it's a little sandpapery probably. And I just read I just read this thing about Mary Oliver's poetry because like I think I went for a really long time thinking I couldn't read poetry because it wasn't for me. Like that it was that it just wasn't for me, right? Like that it was too opaque, or there were layers, but that rind was too thick for me to get to penetrate, or maybe that it was that I felt tension about it because it was just like too real of a thing. I don't know. There's lots of different, but for whatever reason, for a very long time, I've just been like, that's not for me. That's like for an intellectual. That's for someone who has a sparse room in which to sit and ponder things, right? Like that's for someone whose brain isn't firing in the same way mine is. That is someone who can have deep time, and I have lots of shallow time. And anyway, so I've just but like different things have happened, and like different, like the universe shows you what you need, I hope. And so I've just been trying to read some Mary Oliver poetry because I love nature-based things anyway. And I was reading The Kingfisher last night, and it really just... Anyway, so then this morning I was just like trying to like find more about like what do critics think about Mary Oliver? And I just read this article that was kind of in defense of Mary Oliver's poetry, but like she did quote several like New York Times reviewers of Mary Oliver's poetry who were just such ivory tower sons of guns. I mean, just like make the hackles stand up on the, like there was like, I guess Mary Oliver was featured in Oprah had like a poetry compilation in her magazine, or like issued a poetry edition, I don't know, of her magazine. And Mary Oliver was interviewed by Maria Shriver, right? So then this New York Times reviewer is like, there, basically, to paraphrase loosely, there is a gulf between readers of O magazine and poetry readers, and there is not a bridge. There is no bridge constructed of that spasm, of that span, or something to that extent. And I was just like, hopefully that won't count as cursing since I broke it up with laughter. But like, oh my gosh, it is amazing to me that in this day and age we have that mindset still. It's so frustrating. And yet clearly I was participating in that mindset because I was, I had this theory about like whatever. Anyway, so it just really jerk. And that was all to go back to, gosh, y'all, with my parenthetical thinking, that was just all to go back to this thought about like, I was really thinking deeply about this, like this wood carving, this wood block, this lino print, this block printing style, and how much I love it, and how much I would never look at block, like a person who made a block print and think, you don't have a right to make that, right? Or like, oh, what hubris you have to make this image. I literally would never think that. I might be like, oh, I don't care for that, or like, oh, that's not my jam. But I would never look at somebody's piece of work and think that they were conceited for making an image. And yet, for a really long time, I think I thought to myself that it was quite conceited for a layman or like a non-writer to write a poem. And God forbid, to let that poem exist beyond like the dirty, grubby notebook in your bedside table. And yeah, so that was kind of a big moment of just like, why have I thought that? Like, why did I let myself, like, why did I let myself do that? Why did I let myself think that? And I'm still working on it because I still do think that. Like, it's still in my brain that, like, you can't write poetry unless you're Elizabeth Bishop or you're Audre Lorde or, you know what I mean? Like, you can't. But why do I think that? I don't know, what do you think? Right? Like, this is a discussion that needs to be 2-sided or 17-sided. It actually needs to be a 37-sided. This is the D&D dice of our poetry art discussions. But I don't know, it was just an interesting thought. Like, I feel like, you know, so I don't know, I'm coming back in a way to like a more naive place of thinking. Except in my naivete, I thought that I could be a part, right? Like, I thought that I could be a part. Whereas now I'm like, no, I think I can do the thing that I thought would put me apart, but not to be a part, but just to be like a part. Oh. So yeah, I don't know. Well, that was not what I was meaning to talk about, but there you go. There it is. That's what this podcast is all about. 90% of it is things I didn't intend to talk about. So, yeah. Screen printing class. So yeah, here's just some like little light images I made. This was our first night actually printing. So I already showed you some of that. I already showed you one. Was my little frog and toad guys. Right? I really think for Valentine's Day I should make a 2-color and put like an actual heart behind them. Oh, frog and toad. And then I also made these guys, which are not, whatever. I also made these guys. So I'm working with this image a bit more. I'm playing with different iterations of it, trying to change it in different ways to see what I really like about it. But I definitely want it to be, like, it's going to be something, right? I've been playing with one with, like, some, like, kind of, like, advertising / comic booky, like, whatever, some, like, rays behind it, like, oh. But so yeah, like a little bit of sumo love. I started this last time at this class, like from this image that I had kind of worked out, trying to do a block print of it. And I think ultimately I will actually go back to that block print too. But it's been fun to play with the image and modifying it. And again, in Procreate, just being able to like add different elements in without having to do a whole new, like without having to redraw everything. And so it's really been so nice to work in that Procreate product. I'm not sponsored by Procreate. They would be horrified. They're like, no, we're not affiliated with her. So anyways, I've been really enjoying my screen printing class. I've been really enjoying my reading. I know I'm going to get a January reading recap out to you. I kind of played with that too. Like, I kind of got in my own head a little bit too much about like, is this BookTube? Do I need to do a different channel? Do I need to do these things? Am I really, would I be what BookTube is? I don't even know, really. I didn't even know there was a BookTube. And then I found it out, and then I like was instantly like, I don't know if this is what I'm doing. So I'm just going to make them as part of this channel. And then we'll go from there. Right? Like, anytime I start to try to think about like how to grow the channel or how to like transfer more of like my money stream, like my revenue into this area, like I get really way too, it just is like, and it starts to feel like creepy. So yeah, so I think I'll just put it as part of this channel and then we'll go from there. So yeah, okay, so there's that screen printing class. It's fun. And then, and by the way, I'm the oldest person in there. When did that happen? I'm the oldest person. I can remember, like, it seems like yesterday I was often the youngest person. Like, I was always the youngest person in the office, amongst the youngest people doing whatever I was doing. Now I'm the oldest one. What? How does that happen? So I've been working a little bit more. Oh, no, I didn't. I did finish my carry tote, but you pretty much saw it finished. I had just needed to tack down that little bit of binding. My catch-all caddy, excuse me. So I did finish that. And then I've been working a little bit more on my Yokosuito embroidery applique thing. And I'm kind of paused right now because I put in my little stars, right? And so this is from a quilt, a kit from Quilt Party, which is her website, and which I bought like a year ago, so I doubt that it's actually still there. She did include like little metallic thread for the stars, but for some reason I was like, I want to use this. I bought this wool embroidery thread ages ago, and I just wanted to use it. And it's an Aurifil wool. It's a 12/2, so it's a 12 weight. And this is color 8140. It was actually really nice to use. I was afraid it would break really easily. And I know there are lots of different folks who make wool threads. I have also some that come like on the little wood spool. I haven't used those yet. I need to get to it. There's so much to do. But this was very pleasant to work with. Now, clearly, I just did a little bit of embroidery, and it was just like straight line, right? Like it was just little stars. So it's not like I was doing bunches of fill or something like that. But it was very pleasant to use. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of hand quilting, I think, to do like the rays from the stars. That's kind of what she has in her example, and I think that looks nice. I just need to get some quilting thread that's a better match, because how she did it was very subtle, and I liked the look of it, and I thought it'd be fun to try. I did use the machine to just go around the roof line of the house just to make sure everything was actually tacked down, because I wasn't sure that I was going to do any embroidery in the sky. So I just used the machine to go around the edges and then tack down around the edge of the houses, or quilt down the outline of the skyline, essentially. And then I just did some little stitching here in the grass, just again to make sure everything anchored and was good to go. But I'm not going to do any quilting inside the houses, I don't think. I think I'm just going to leave those as they are. And I might actually take out the like machine quilting I did along the kind of like just did stitch in the ditch along the skyline. I don't know. I'm resting on it. We'll see. We'll see. I might go back and just do it by hand. Okay, so there's that. And then knitting. I have finished. I have some knitting failures this week. I have finished, potentially, but maybe not, a pair of socks. This is Woolens and Nosh. She does great self-striping sock yarn, and she's cute as a button and just a lovely human to be around. This is her 80% superwash tar heat, 90% superwash tar heat, 10% nylon 4-ply. So this is sport weight. It's 300 yards for 100 grams. And this is the day hiking colorway, which I purchased at Super Summer Knit Together right before I went on my backpacking trip. So it seemed like it was fated. But what I did is I made one sock 60 stitches and one sock 64. I think I must have been wearing a few socks that were a little bit loose. And so I was like, I should go down. I didn't need to go to 60. I make fingering weight socks. I almost always do 72 stitches. And then sport weight socks, I do 64. And then DK, I do 56. So basically I just go like down a size for each weight I bump. I did not need to go to 60. I don't know. And then of course when I just casted the second one, I completely forgotten that I had done 60 stitches and made it 64 like I would normally. So this sock might get reworked. I don't know. I haven't decided. It fits. It's just a little snug. And I'm mostly just deciding, like, am I okay with them being, like, different levels of fit? Maybe I should try to see if one of my feet is slightly bigger than the other one. Like one of my boobs is definitely bigger than the other one. Maybe I should try to see if one of my feet is slightly wider or something. But I really love them, and they're so beautiful. Again, Woolens and Nosh Day Hiking. This is basically based on the Twizzler. No, wait, that's the one where you carry it. Is it the vanilla? I think this is the vanilla latte pattern. A pattern? Does that sound good? Basically what I did, which is not the same thing as the pattern is written, but what I did is I don't think it's the same thing as the pattern does. I just do an afterthought heel, like a true afterthought heel. And I do 2 stitches between, like, so on your first row that gets a color change. So like say you're knit along with white, da, 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 changing to blue, except I actually knit these this way. I'm knitting along with white, da, 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 I'm changing to green. When I get to the green row, I'm going to knit 2 green, slip 1 white, knit 2 green, slip 1 white until I get back to the beginning, and then just knit as normal until you get to the next color change row. Except I don't do that on, like when I'm starting to get close to where I would put in a heel, I just go to regular stockinette because it's really not fun to try to do a cut heel when you're doing those slip stitches. It's not fun. Now, if you were going to do like the ripcord afterthought heel where you like knit in a row, it wouldn't matter, I imagine. Well, it definitely wouldn't matter. But if you're going to cut in your heel, I suggest having just stockinette that you're working with. So yeah, and I knit these cuff down, cuff up, whatever you call it. I cast on at the cuff and cast off at the toe, and I was at a place, and it was not my house, and so I actually just did a 3-needle bind off for the toe. That's fine. It actually is kind of cute. I like it. And it's like on the outside, so like it doesn't bother your toe. If you hate to Kitchener, man, don't let Kitchenering bum you out. Just do a 3-needle bind off on the toe. This is sport weight, and it's barely a thing. It's barely noticeable. Right? There we go. It's barely noticeable. I'm just saying. So that's why there's no ends woven on this one. This one's the skinny one. Trying to decide what to do. Okay. So that's my only finished object. And then I was working more on my partying up. No. What is it? Partying down. Knitting up and partying down. Is that what it is? Knitting up and partying down. It's by the Stockinette Zombies. It's almost like I haven't done a podcast for like fully 10 years now. More than 10 years. Like it's almost like that. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's Partying Up and Getting Down Socks by Megan Williams. Sorry. Partying It Up and Getting Down Socks. Megan Williams. Except I did both of mine as Partying Up because I just prefer that. So I did them toe up, and as you saw, I just did those socks cuff down. I actually don't have a marriage of like, or I'm not married to sock up versus toe up versus cuff down. I don't care either way. But just this one has some short row shaping, and so I prefer to do it from the toe. Yeah. So here is one, and I am also just doing afterthought heels. So this doesn't have his heel. It does have a contrasting toe. And also you'll notice there's some garter stitch up at the top. And Megan's pattern is written with stockinette short row shaping. That's how you get rid of your chevron at the top. But I did garter and I actually really liked it. I don't like to purl for socks. And so I really enjoyed it with the stockinette, or with the garter. Gosh, words and things. With the garter. And I think it looks really cute in this yarn too. So I did do the turns a little bit more quickly. So for example, if she did her turn Like if she knit 3 stitches before she did her turn, I would knit 2 stitches before I did my turn, because you have more garter rows in an inch than you do stockinette rows. So you need more rows. You need more rows. But yeah, I think it looks really cute. I also kind of forgot to reduce, because you have extra stitches because of the chevron, right? And so I kind of forgot to reduce those on that last row. So it's a little bit off. It's fine. It's under my pant leg. Nobody cares. But here, so I've started my heel on this guy. If you have chunky feet, like I have a very Fred Flintstone-y foot, like my foot is like a right angle at the back. And then this part is like a 45-degree angle. So if you have a foot like that, a lot of people think that they can't do an afterthought heel. It doesn't like fit on their foot right. I have found for my specific feet, it's my favorite. But what I just need to do is knit a deeper heel before I do my decreases. So my heel is much deeper than a standard pattern. Like for example, well, for any of the afterthought heel patterns. So I usually almost double the depth. But what I really do is I put the sock tube on my foot. I see where it hits the bend in my ankle. And that's where I know I'm going to put in my heel, right? So if this is my foot, here, let's do it on this one. If this is my foot, it's like, oh, it's not fitting in there great because you got a foot in there that doesn't belong. You can also just like, you know, not put it over your ankle. You can just pull it up to see. Eventually just get used to knowing where it is, so it doesn't matter anymore. But so I measure that like from where my bend is in my ankle, and that's where I'm gonna like cut my sock to put in my heel. And then basically what I do is measure my toe. If my toe is 2 inches and I know that my foot from heel to toe is 10 inches, for example, what I do is I just knit my heel until it's 8 inches. So until I know that I have room for my decreases for my heel. Does that make sense? I think so. So for example, on this one, I cut in for my heel at 7.5 inches. I think my toe was 2 inches. My foot is 10.25 inches. So I'm just knitting this part even until this is 8.25 inches, right? And that's how my fit works for socks. That's how it works for me with my particular foot shape. So yeah, and that is, I don't think that's an Arnie and Carlos. I think it's just a Regia 4-ply is this one. And it's like a Christmas colorway. And then, let me put this needle back in here. I'm knitting them on double zeros because I am a notoriously loose knitter. And another fail, I have been In another fail, I've been working on the Musselburgh hat, which is by Isolde Teague, and it's a great pattern, except when you're me, and what it is you cast on at the crown, and you increase in 4 points until you get enough room to measure gauge, and then you look at your pattern and figure out how many stitches you need to increase to. Well, I neglected to do those last bits. So I was just like knitting along on my hat, and suddenly I was like, oh, I should probably check that. And I had increased like 40 more stitches than I needed or something ridiculous. So I did have to rip out a bunch of my hat. So you know that's exciting though. When you do rip out your knitting, then it's like okay, I just got to get back to like where I'm pulling out of the center of the ball again, and then you feel very like, yes, I accomplished something. Even though you feel like a total doofus when you have to rip it out because you were just not paying attention to the world. So this is actually probably less hat than the last time I showed you, but I have worked on it. This is like my fanny pack knitting. Put it in my fanny pack. Ride to the bike to get Thai food. Woo. I pulled my bike down for the first time this year on Saturday to go have lunch with a friend, and it was so nice to pull my bike down. Except it was not nice to go up the like very small hill I have to ride up to go into town, into like Fountain Square. Like it's like I don't know, it's like a 0.5% grade. It's more than that. But it's like not a grade you would notice if you were walking. Yet when I'm biking, I'm like, oh, where'd this hill come from? I'm in Indiana. Everything's supposed to be flat. Because, yeah, it's different. But on a bike for a minute. Although I think I'm getting a new bike this year. Oh, I'm definitely getting a new bike this year. Just trying to decide which one to get. Do you have a favorite bicycle? I'm looking for like what would be like a hybrid bike probably. Like I have this idea that I want to do gravel. But then like again, I hit a slight hill and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not really ready to do gravel. Maybe that's like a 50th birthday goal. I'm turning 45 this year. So I'm in the market for a new bike and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to get. So many options. So I like an upright riding position, 100%. But I just need different, like my bike has coaster brakes and I need hand brakes and yeah, there's just a few things that I would like some more gears. I only have 3 gears, which is pretty useful for Indiana. And again, just riding on paved surfaces, but it would be nice to have a few more, but mostly it's the brakes. And also I would like to have, maybe a slightly faster ride. Mostly, I am trying to do a little bit more biking to go places. And so when one is driving in traffic on a coaster bike, it feels a little silly. Although I feel silly riding in traffic anyway, so I don't think the bike's going to make that much difference. But maybe it would be nice to have something that was slightly zippier than my little coaster bike. My little cruiser. Which means I'm also going to have to sell my little cruiser because our world is not big enough for multiple bicycles, probably. So yeah, Gus is just doing the podcast now. He's so nosy. So anyway, so that's my hat. Clearly, bicycle talk. And then the last thing oh no, I have another thing too. I've also been working on my Aurora Cabin shawl, which is a pattern by Stephen West. And of course, I'm in the middle of a row. I mean, in my defense, the rows are getting big. Somebody wrote in, like, made a comment last time about their, like, 1,000+ stitch bind off. And I was like, oh, that's probably going to happen any minute now. Well, not any minute, but do you know what I mean? Like, so sometimes I forget when he does those crazy giant bind offs, but it'll be fine. And I'm very pleased with it so far. And it's been very pleasant to knit. So, yeah. So I got my like little kind of bird's eye section here. And I'm on to my final band of this, which is just very fun to knit, even though it is a gabillion stitches. I think I'm at 700-ish. But yeah, it's very enjoyable. It's very lovely. I'm really pleased with it so far. Definitely could be a sweater. Settle down, Beth. Yay, isn't it pretty? It's very fun to knit. And so, yeah. And then I have one more thing. I am cast on for Dot Pebbles Knits. She does all of the little cutesies. This is her rabbit doll, which I think is actually maybe free at the moment. Even when her patterns are not free, they're like £2 or $1.50 or £1.50 or something. They're very ridiculously affordable. Warning, these are all knit flat. Oh, painfully flat too. Even when you're like, but this could have been in the round. But it's just her style, and that's fine. And I knew that when I got into it. But I mean, it also includes a pattern for the coat. Also, I don't know if you can see it in my poor lighting. Here we go. She also tells you where she bought these shoes. Right? And then I found like so many like tutorials about how to make tiny shoes. And then I was like, okay, I gotta draw a line somewhere. This might be my line of like things that I'm not gonna do. But they're very cute. Oh, so sweet. So I am knitting mine out of some Jameson and Smith in the, oh shit, they don't list it on here. It's 2002. This is one of their, like their natural sheep breeds colorways. And also some mohair silk that I bought from my LYS, which is Mass Ave Knits. So yeah, so these guys together. And then here's my bun so far. Hopefully. Right. Okay. So I am never good. Like, I think this yarn is technically a sport weight. This mohair silk seems chunkier than the normal silk fingering weight or lace weight that I usually use. So she tiny bit looks like a mouse with giant ears. But she's also not done yet, you know. So here we are. We have some pipe cleaners, like actual pipe cleaners, which I didn't even realize the pipe cleaners are like an actual, like that's for cleaning pipes. Did you know that? You probably did. Never even occurred to me that they were for cleaning like smoking pipes. The things you learned. Actually, I learned that one when we were all making masks at home. But anyway, so I had some of those pipe cleaners left over. And so I have one of them in her body. And then I have, actually have two of them, but let's just like next to each other. And then I have like two that I just put through the body for legs. So she will be bendable-ish. She'll be bendable. But anyway, so the only thing is, you know, I should probably look on the webs on Ravelry to see if gauge is listed on Ravelry, because she doesn't list it in the pattern that I'm seeing. And so I am kind of curious, like, is this the right gauge? Because her leg seems very short. Like, I was supposed to have already started her little foot, but it just seems short. So I'm wondering if my gauge is funky. So anyway, so I am knitting. I did knit her legs a little differently. They're meant to be I-cord, and I did actually just knit them in the round because I just wanted them to be a little bit beefier. But yeah, she is all seamed and so tiny, but very cute. And I'm really like, I gotta get that coat made. Oh, and then I, of course, did a different color for her ears. And I'm excited to see what she looks like. I'm going to steam block her and see if that kind of helps to flatten out her ears a bit. Because my seaming is never the best, you know? And so I wonder if her ears are kind of like a little bit chunkier just because of, like, whatever, because of the yarn I chose or my gauge or whatever. So her patterns are like gorgeous, but they are not as, like, for example, like when you look at a like when you're on Ravelry or wherever you decide, whatever you're doing, like an Instagram search, whatever, there are some patterns, like I'm immediately thinking of Susan B. Anderson and but there are others. That's not, I just like, that's the one that comes to mind. Like where the products look very consistent, right? Like very consistent. And Dot Pebbles, her product, like the folks who make stuff from her patterns, it's not as consistent because again, you have this element of seaming, and things like that, which makes it a little bit harder to exactly replicate what she's doing. But but it is very clear what her patterns are. Like they are all pieced, they are all seamed, they are all, you know, there's no like, she's not trying to trick you. She's very clear. And they're very affordable. So I'm not, clearly I bought this pattern because I wanted to make this tiny rabbit. Just putting it out there for you. So you know what's going to expect if you've not used any of her patterns before. But anyway. So cute, right? So cute. And I think that's all. Yeah, that's all we have to talk about. Okay, here's some wool I'm using to stuff her with. Oh, it still smells so good. All right, kids, that's all for now. I'll see you in a few weeks, hopefully before February is out. We're having some beautiful, like, you know, we're getting the fake spring, February, because it happens every year. And it's gorgeous and like actual blue skies and sun, which is what I want more than the warm weather even. But yeah. Oh, I hope you can find some sunshine in a moment where you're ready to accept it. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.